Hey everybody, Winter here. So, Loki, which is a series that I really enjoy, it got ragged on at one point for what people saw as a plot hole. And it boils down to why would the TVA grab a deviant, bring them back, put them on trial, and then prune them? Why wouldn't they just prune them? And at first I was kind of like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Wait a minute. No, no, it does make sense. And you have to really think about this one. And this one's an interesting one because it's not an obvious answer, but it does make, and again, kind of like I talked about with the thing with the Shang-Chi, is it more than likely just bad writing versus did they really think the way I realized that could make sense? Probably not, but it can make sense. And the way it makes sense is when you realize that all human beings have a fundamental aversion to killing other human beings. Okay, that's part of the human condition. Now, if you're the kind of cynic who out there and says, "Oh, humans are bloodthirsty animals," you're wrong. You're wrong. You're factually wrong again. And there's more than enough evidence to support how you are wrong, and that is an unjustifiably cynical world view. And I really have a problem with cynicism. Not the Greek philosophy, and other things like that. I'm talking about this just like, this notion that everything sucks, everyone is evil, everybody's out to get. It's like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. You're being obtuse. Now, to get back on point, in the case of Loki and the TVA, basically the TVA exists to murder people who step out of line. They murder people who step out of line. Now, yeah, you could get into that whole philosophical argument. Well, is it really murder if they weren't really supposed to exist anyway? Yeah, it's murder. It's murder. Okay, you existed and then you don't exist. The way they remove you from existence, being it from pruning a timeline or from shooting you in the head, it's still murder. You're not. I'm sorry. I'm not going to feel any differently about that one. It is fundamentally difficult to get humans to kill other humans. It's extremely difficult because we have an innate aversion to it. Okay. And again, anybody's going to go, well, what about all the wars and all the, this genocides? Again, wars and genocides are actually not common. Do the actual math, historically speaking. They're not common. They're nowhere near as common as you think. Okay, again, to get back on track. The problem with even in the military, and I've heard this said in military or war documentaries and whatnot. When you put somebody in boot camp, they are not ready to kill somebody. When they come out of boot camp, they're still not ready to kill somebody. They're ready to follow orders to kill somebody. Okay, that makes a little more sense. And I've also heard this stat thrown around that really in war, it's only about 20% roughly of frontline combat units that do the actual killing. And contrary to popular belief, war is not just about killing the enemy. That's not true either. But it's really only about 20%. And I've talked with guys who were in the military, and I go, I mean, what did you? Yes, they said yes. You only, about any time in your unit, about 20% of the guys in your unit are really ready to just square off with somebody and pull the trigger, knowing that they're going to kill them. Everybody else, the likelihood of them doing that is much slim. That doesn't mean that they won't or can't or are incapable of it. It's just that the psychology behind it is rare. To find, to get somebody to that point and to find somebody capable of doing it is rare. And there's been other case studies and other historical findings that have come out. I was a buddy of mine a while back read a book about what life in the concentration camps was really like from the perspective of the Germans who were running them. And one of the things that was coming to light in the research for this book, now that more and more documents, they have more and more time to comb through it, is the sheer number of German guards that blew their brains out. was way higher than you would imagine. I don't have the actual numbers in front of me, and I didn't read the book. He was explaining it to me. He also said that they routinely had to transfer guards. These were, diehard German officers and pro-Nazis, and they knew what they were there to do, but they routinely still had to bounce them from one camp to another to give them a cool-off period, because it was so difficult to get people to systematically murder other people. And that is basically what the TVA is doing. Systematically murdering billions, trillions, zillions. I don't know. I mean, in theory, they're pruning the entire timeline. So yeah, it's more than just that. It's more than just that deviant and their immediate area. They're pruning that timeline. So what do you do to get, what's one of the things that you get, what's one of the ways you get over that? Because while we find out, spoilers, that the TVA operatives themselves were variants, and they weren't created from the sands of the earth, they're human. They have human psychology. They believe in what they're doing, and they believe that they're doing it the right way. And they don't see it as simply murdering zillions of people. And the trial is one way to alleviate that possibility of that mental pressure of having to murder that many people. It has an air of authority. It has an air of justice, an air of rightness to it, an air of order, however you want to describe it. It is, the whole trial thing is designed to give some sense of legitimacy to these horrific, barbaric acts. And I think that's really, when you think about it, that makes sense. When you think about it from that angle, the whole trial thing makes sense in a roundabout way. Now, would I be surprised if the writers of the show had that in their minds when they were thinking of it, and instead they were just thinking, oh, this would make for a really cool scene, so even though it makes a logical sense, we're not going to worry about that. We're still going to put him on trial, even though they should just show up and prune the timeline. Just prune the timeline. Just, okay, stop the timeline, move on. Why would you need to bring anybody out and put them on trial? It's more for otherwise you would have TVA agents who would probably crack under that kind of pressure. So in some ways they have this fake system, judicial system set up to add some air of legitimacy to the horrendous acts that they're being asked or forced to do. And that sort of sentiment is mirrored in Mobius, who is a true believer until he's not. And even then, Renfield is still a true believer, even though she should not be. So there's some interesting, and that's one thing I like about Loki, is there's some interesting levels there about the psychology of what they're doing and why they're doing it and how they can manage to do this. Right now with me, now obviously these people don't remember their variants, their memories have been altered. If I was still me and you asked me to prune a timeline, I'd say, fuck you. No! Fuck off! Just go to fucking hell. Or I would do, I don't know, I couldn't pull it. I don't think I could pull the trigger. I honestly don't. I would do something to undermine them or, something like that. But anyway, so that's, even though that doesn't make sense at first, if you really dig deeper, yeah, there is a way to kind of reconcile that perceived plot hole. Though I am interested to what was actually going through the writers' heads when they made that whole setup, whether it was, they just thought it would sound cool and look cool on TV, or whether or not they actually thought, yeah, well, we need to create some sort of order to pacify the moral objections that most of these people would probably have. So yeah, that's just food for thought. So Wintermute out.